So we just had a look at the push pin triangle. We effectively used our leg to open his elbow, right? Opening that elbow presents quite a few opportunities to us when we understand what that really is, okay? So now, if as I'm going to try that push pin triangle, he realizes that he is safer if I'm flat on my back than if I'm on a hip, and he attempts to return me to flat on my back, it is going to be pretty hard for me to get to that triangle, but it will open up my Kimura as well. So I'm going to use the same basic mechanic. We're going to start with our overhook. I'm going to get to that same bicep ride, my knees in front of his bicep, and I'm pulling on that wrist and whatnot. But the placement of my left hand is what's going to be important in this one. That's what's going to tell you what submission that you should start looking for. And it's going to allow you to move on to your Kimura. So.
All right, so I broke his posture down. I got my overhook. Maybe you started with head control. Maybe you were able to get right to here. I got to a hip. I stood on the hip and I got my bicep ride, right? Now he's biting down here, okay? So I'm going to pull my arm out from that overhook because at this point, I'm no longer trying to pull him this way. That's not to say that there aren't moments from this position where I want to pull him this way, but right now I'm not trying to pull him this way. All I want is to make sure that he can't have his arm back. So instead of using my wrist to keep him here, my knee or my thigh and my elbow are going to touch. And that's all that's going to keep his arm here. Okay? I'm going to take my hand and it's going to come to his armpit. Right? Now, I'm going to straighten and I'm going to open my elbow. And I'm going to kind of let him push me back to my back. And what you're going to see is that lets his head peek through. I'm going to stuff my hand through, kick my arm down, or kick my leg down, and I'm in my Kimura, right? Keep your foot on their hip over here, right? He's feeling a lot more pressure in his shoulder already than he would be if I took my rear foot off of his hip, okay? A good Kimura involves separating his elbow from his body. And I can do that either by pulling with all of my might in my upper body, or I can just be standing on his hips and be like, nah, homie, get the fuck out of here, right? So I'm going to use my legs to extend him. I'm going to get on my hip. I'm going to tuck his hand inside of his elbow, and I'm going to bring my elbow to the mat to finish him, right? So one more time. We're in our overhook. I switch from controlling it with my wrist, and I go to either his ear or his armpit to pass him through, right? As he comes through, I stuff my hand in there, right? And you're gonna see on this side, I'm kind of building a ramp for his arm to slide down, right? So as I go, his arm slides down into my pocket here, right? Versus if this is bent and it slides down, that Kimura's not there. Right? So I have to initiate this push pin first. And then, shit, he's wise to it. Oh, okay, thanks. Right? And I don't necessarily need to go right for this grip. I can just ice pick it. Right? Just connect my wrist to my wrist and curl this wrist down, and it'll do the same basic thing. Right? Now I gotta get my hip to the same side as the Kimura. I use my legs to extend him, and I bring my elbow to the floor. Alright, so we're just mixing up the attack. We were looking to push that arm, push that arm, push that arm, push that arm, get that arm out of here, get that arm out of here. I need that arm to go that way so I can attack your neck. And they're like, nah, homie, my arm's not going that way. Matter of fact, my whole body's coming this way. And I'm like, all right, cool, do that. I'm gonna take that arm. Alright, so start out by looking for that triangle. And the more real your triangle threat is, the more realistic this Kimura is. But if you're half-assing that triangle and they're not worried about it, they're not going to drive back into you. Why would they? They're just going to push your leg down and be like, ha ha ha, I've passed your guard down. And I'm not having that shit. All right. So get good at this position, get good at that Kimura, but really, 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 really make sure that you have sharp teeth behind your triangle. Because if your triangle doesn't have any teeth, ain't nobody scared of your gums. I have no idea if that makes sense, but I hope it does.